Mate, it's the Knicks. It was your first intro. How was that? Fill me
Oh,
in.
mate, it was good. It's good to get into a team that has been good, but they didn't make a great deal of off-season changes. But the biggest one they did make was at the coach, and that's going to have a massive impact on this team for sure.
Yeah, Tom Thibodeau is probably one of those guys that classically flog their players to death, let's be honest. And it's evident they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that played over 32 minutes per game. Now, which is great for fantasy basketball, but now that, Mike Brown's the head coach, it's probably not going to be the case, is it?
No, they're going to make some big changes here, and minutes is probably the big notable one here. That we're going to see. We'll probably see a bit more bench utilization coming here, and there'll be a bit of sort of structure and gameplay in the way they roll some guys out, and it could change some guys' roles and whether people are considered starters or not, and how the minutes get used.
Yeah, well, it made it really easy to know that you had 5 top 100 guys last year. And I am going to draw a line through that and say that you're not going to get 5 top 100 guys next year because Mike Brown is going to spread it out. Hopefully, the guys are healthier come the postseason and that they can perform. They've had some big additions. I'm a big Yabusele guy. I think that he did some really good things for Philly, and that's an underrated signing. Jordan Clarkson, a little bit of a firecracker that should be considered a bench option, might be able to touch that 158 and be a viable option in your team. But apart from that, like you said, it's pretty stagnant in that starting lineup. It's really hard to work out whether they're going to start Mitchell Robinson or Karl Anthony Towns, and it might honestly be matchup based. But like all these previews, we have a little bit of a chat. They made the Eastern Conference Finals, lost to the Pacers, who eventually lost in the finals. How do you think they'll go this year? I think they were 51 and 31 last year. Do you think they can improve on that, or everything's measured on postseason?
Yeah, I think for them, everything's still going to be measured postseason here. The East is weak, so I think they're probably in a pretty good line to, if they don't finish on a 3 seed or top 3 seed this year, then you'd call it a failure here. Boston don't have Tatum. Indy don't have Hallie. They don't have Turner either. But there's a lot of changes that are going on over there. I think they're probably locked in for a 2 seed here. But I reckon it's probably going to be a 52, 53 win season, and that's probably not due to them getting better. It's due to the others getting worse.
Yeah, and like, I am a big Karl Anthony Towns guy. I reckon a couple years ago, I would have been absolutely locked in to take him in at the number 5 pick. I cannot understand him getting taken the first round when we've seen Mike Brown run teams, when we've seen Tom Thibodeau run teams, and he was the 9th best ranked player last year. His ADP is right up there near the top. 9.6, 13 on ESPN, 8.9 on Fantrax to, I suppose, classically be picking at 10th. He is the top gun in this team, and he's somebody that I am drawing a pencil through because I would take him at 18, 19. But everybody else seems to be taking him before. Talk me off a cliff. Is it me, or is it just society loving Karl Anthony Towns?
I think Cat's still going to produce value here. I still think it's first round value, but I don't think it's mid first round value. I think it's probably later on in the round. He's probably a 9 to 12 pick for me. He will be sliding down my board with a lot of these sort of in-depth looks at it. I think the decision of whether Mitch Robinson starts at the 5 or whether it's Cat at the 5 probably going to biggest thing affect his boards. I still think his points are going to be there. Other than that, not much else is really going to change. But if those boards slide, then I think he slides to the 2nd for me.
And if his boards slide, I don't only think that it's going to affect Cat. It's also like all this Josh Hart hype from this year. Like Josh Hart is a guy that I went to bat for last year. I was taking him left, right, and center. I think I owned him in every league I'm going to be in, but I can't get around him getting taken at 55th. I can't get around him taking it 34th on ESPN and like within the top 50 between Yahoo Fantrax and ESPN. I love Josh Hart. I think that he has been a sleeper for absolute years, just getting out of position, rebounds, and everything like that. But with Mike Brown coming in, I can't see this man playing 32 minutes per night. Maybe he'll still play that 76 games per season. And look, I don't need points to draft a guy, but he was the 96th ranked player last year, and I can't see him being that much better than that.
No, I can't see him being that. I think in some ways, if you measure as well, you can get him up as high as, the 30s, 40s. But I know I've got him down here noted as a vibe sort of guy. That's probably the best way I've got to describe him. He does a lot of things. He doesn't do anything really that well. He fills a lot of stats that we like, and it's good to cover off on, if you can cover off on boards, assists, and steals in one guy, that's great. And he doesn't really punish you anywhere else. His turnovers are all right. It's nice, but there's a real world here where he gets kicked out of the starting five. Like if Mitchell Robinson comes in, who from that starting lineup is a sacrificial lamb here? And 6'4" Josh Hart playing power forward, that's gonna be the sacrificial lamb. I can see it.
Yeah, and if you listen to yesterday's podcast, we were talking about the New Orleans Pelicans, and people are drafting Josh Hart like he's Trey Murphy when maybe he should be, I suppose, drafted like he's Herb Jones. That's probably my best comparison.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the best way as well. I think he had an incredibly hot year last year, and I think everyone's going to be sucking in and buy high this year. And it's one of those ones that I'm happy to let slide through. If I get burnt, I get burnt, but I'm pretty confident in, he will be, in the lower ends, 80s, 90s at best, and probably 100 guy. But I'm not taking him at 50.
Yeah, I do think you mentioned Mitchell Robinson, and we're not talking about the AFL player. We're talking about the Knicks player. With Mitchell, I'm not a big AFL guy, but did he play for the Lions?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. I have to. You make me brush up on my AFL here while I'm doing an NBA podcast, mate. I'm pretty sure he did. If not, it was Melbourne. Yeah, Mitch Robinson. Yeah, he did play at the Lions.
Yeah, no, Mitch Robinson, not the Australian AFL player. We're talking about the center for the New York Knicks, and not my NBL champion in Ariel Hukporti. But I do think that maybe it'll be a little bit matchup based. Like Mike Brown is one of those guys that can adapt. I do think that if they have to match up, for example, with a Joel Embiid or a Nikola Jokic, it's going to have to be a bigger guy in Mitch Robinson. But if you're playing one of those teams that, like, say if you're playing Golden State, I can see Mitch Robinson playing 12 minutes that game, and Karl Anthony Towns starting at the center. I think Mike Brown will be a little bit more fluid. I was a big Bulls fan back when Derrick Rose was playing. It was hard because what was it? It was 10 plus or something like that over here in Australia was the only way that we could watch the NBA. And it was Derrick Rose because he was the number one draft pick. They played Milwaukee Bucks games because Andrew Bogut played. And they always played Lakers games because it was Kobe. So I was a big Bulls fan in watching that. And man, like the way that Tom Thibodeau coached was just the same five guys playing 35 to 38 minutes per night. Mike Brown, when we have a look at that Cleveland team that he played, that he coached in, when we have a look at him making the impact as an assistant coach, he will spread it a little bit better. And Tom Thibodeau doesn't adjust on matchups. Tom Thibodeau does what Tom Thibodeau does. Mike Brown will think a little bit more, and it won't be about getting the best 5 players out. It'll be about matchups, and Mitchell Robinson is going to get a bump. In my opinion, Karl Anthony Towns is going to not play 33 minutes per night, or maybe not 33 minutes in his preferred position. I'm excited to see how it pans out, but it will offer opportunity for some of these undrafted guys to be waiver wire pickups.
Yeah, I see. If you get a nice set of matchups and Mitchell Robinson becomes a streaming option, if you get an Embiid or a Jokic, if you get those matchups for the Knicks in the same week, then Mitchell Robinson becomes a great streaming option here as well. They do have some. They got some youth in Deuce McBride. They got Jordan Clarkson as well. You can't forget he's come in. Gershon, he came over from the 76ers as well. There is options here, and as matchups or availability or just, if nothing else, potentially form comes into it, we could see some new things tried over here, which is not what we got used to last year with Thibs.
Yeah, and like you said, Josh Hart isn't a stagnant in this team. I think if one of these guys that you just mentioned, like your Miles McBrides, your Jordan Clarksons, your Yabuseles, like if one of those guys goes on an absolute tear, he will just play them, and Josh Hart will be out because he is such a stagnant, dare I say, boring player at times. Like,
he's not the sort of guy that you watch basketball for. He's a fantasy guy, and I think that's why he slid on a lot of people's boards last year. He's one of those guys that you don't buy him because you go, I really want to watch this guy play. You buy him because he's going to put up numbers, and in fantasy world, that's what we're all playing for. In the end, is the numbers.
So the 98th ranked player last year was Mikal Bridges. He, again, is a Superman when it comes to playing basically every game. I think he's missed something stupid like 3 games in his career, playing above 35 minutes per night. Scored 17 points per game, doesn't do a lot of anything else, but also doesn't hurt you anywhere. Oh, mate, like he could be the safest pick of all time.
Yeah, I think he could be. I think the other part is as well, his efficiency will come up as well, like a reduction in minutes and him playing. This guy loves his streak that he's got. He proved that by jumping in for, what was it? It was like 2 possessions or something last year. The man loves his streak, and if he can play 82 games again this year to keep it going, he will. So I never buy on availability, but that guy loves being available. And I think a reduction in minutes probably isn't going to punish him too bad. It'll bring his efficiencies up as well, which is nice, considering he's probably going to have shooting guard availability in most leagues as well. So having an efficient shooting guard, last year was a 500 guy. I don't mind having that.
And I 100% agree with what you said when it comes to I don't draft on availability. But sometimes if you're in the same position and you think 2 guys can do exactly the same thing, and one guy has missed 3 games ever and one guy just missed 30 games in the last year, I would lean towards the guy that is going to be more healthy. Like I am maybe looking at Mikal Bridges around your Denny Avdias, your Michael Porter Juniors, your Paul Georges. And like sometimes I see Paul George sitting there, and while there might be more upside, I just think like, can a 37-year-old Paul George play as many games as Mikal Bridges? Probably not. Who's going to derail my season more? And it might be whether I drafted a Zion or a Joel Embiid or a LaMelo Ball earlier on. And if I did take a risk there, I'm not going to take a risk on Paul George, and then I'm going to take somebody like Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, exactly. He fits a safe when you need a safe pick, and you're getting into round 8, and you need a safe pick, round 7, round 8, and you need a safe one. Like Mikal Bridges is a name that you look for.
Mate, we have chatted about Josh Hart. We've chatted about Mikal Bridges. We've talked about how we think that it might be structured with Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not high as to where he's taken, but you're pretty cool about him getting taken there. It leaves 2 starting positions, and it's Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby. So OG Anunoby is, again, a little bit of an Iron Man, much like Mikal Bridges. And I think that he makes this team better. But where he's getting drafted, there presents some value this year because he is getting drafted 94 on ESPN. And this guy is a top, in my opinion, he is always going to be a top 60 guy. Even if he does lose 2 or 3 minutes per game, I actually just cannot find any deficiencies in OG's game. And he has done this for, honestly, the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not sexy, but he's just a guy that you can pick, right?
Exactly, and I think the coaching change, if anything, is probably going to open things up for him as well with a bit more pace on the ball. It's going to open that up for him a bit, and some more steals. He'll get some more open shots as well. I see this being one of the few guys that's from the starting lineup that's going to benefit from a new look coach.
Yeah, I'm in on OG, and only because, look, I'm not drafting him at 60. And in Fantrax, he's getting drafted at 60. But when you see him still on the board in your 70s, in your 80s, he's going to plug a spot. He's not going to hurt you anywhere. And if you've taken your wrist elsewhere, I can get around taking OG. Do I think Yabusele or anything like that's really going to impact OG? I don't. I think when an injury happens is when Yabusele is going to show his worth. But look, I don't know what your opinion is there of Yabusele. I think that he is a guy that Philly really needed to re-sign, but couldn't do it due to the Oubre contract.
Yeah, I think he's a great player. He played really, really well last year, and I love what he did. But he did it in a very specific type of role that Philly needed, where you own Joel Embiid, you own Paul George, and you need somebody who can fill that big spot that's pretty unreliable for them there. And having Gershon available was key for them when both weren't available.
Mate, we talked about our top guns earlier, and you and I did not mention Jalen Brunson. And maybe we should have. Drafted 19th on Yahoo, 11th on ESPN, 22 in Fantrax. I am not high on Jalen Brunson, the 23rd ranked player last year. And again, I hate to, we've just done a podcast on this, but I hate to keep relating back to Tom Thibodeau. But Tom Thibodeau played the shit out of Jalen Brunson. And I can only see this getting worse for him, but he's getting drafted at a better spot than what he performed at last year. I personally don't understand it. Can you explain it to me, or are you on the same wavelength?
100% the same wavelength here. Jalen Brunson, as a numbers guy myself, I looked into the numbers on this guy, and if you played by the numbers, you wouldn't play him in starting minutes because he's a defensive liability. His opponents feed off him when he's on the court. Their offensive rating goes up, effective field goal percentage goes up. He only plays well when the game's either really bad or really great for them. They're up by 10 plus. That's when he scores his best from percentage wise. He just is yuck. He'll tell you right, he'll be I think I've got him on my board in the low 20, like the 28 or 33 or something, somewhere around there, and I'd probably take him there, but I'm really not excited about that.
Yeah, I suppose my comparison for him is somebody like De'Aaron Fox. And I've got this guy in the early 30s of my board. And if he is getting drafted about the same as Jalen Brunson, I can get around drafting Jalen Brunson. Look, he still does a lot of things really well. Shoots the ball at a good clip, hits 2.4 threes, and scored 27 points per game. But I can see a 4-minute decrease, which again, your 26 points per game starts to turn into 22 or 23. Your assists start to turn into 6 instead of 7. Your percentages are going to stay the same. Maybe they even increase from a guard. But with Tom gone, I just can't get around Jalen Brunson. And to be completely honest, and I don't want to offend people out there, I'll let the casuals take Jalen Brunson because I won't have a bar of him.
Yeah, especially at that ADP that he's at the moment. Like ESPN 11 ADP for him is just outrageous. That is laughable, if I'm being honest, to have him that high, like a first round pick of Jalen Brunson. Nothing would make me say yuck more than that. Like, there's so many guys ahead of J-Dub, Donovan Mitchell. Like, there's so many other guys I'd much rather have than him that offer me more to my team. And I'm not getting blocks out of him. I'm not getting turnovers out of him. Like, I'm getting a lot of turnovers out of him, and his boards are meh as well. Like, I'm not really loving it.
I'd rather shit in my hands and clap than take Jalen Brunson in the first round. So that's
honest. I like that. Honest, I like that.
But look, I would take Jalen Brunson. There's a position that I'd take everyone because I see value. But it is in the look. I could get around taking him at the back end of the second round, early third round. But the way that he's being drafted, I won't ever get him. So that makes me draw a line through him and start to not build any teams or any structures in all our mock drafts and that we've been doing around Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Mate,
he was 37th last year on a -1 rank. How somebody is in the teens is nuts.
Yeah, and he's going to get less minutes because we know that, because we've seen Tom Thibodeau coach for years and years.
With the coach style that doesn't work as well for him because they're going to want to put more pace on the ball, and that just doesn't tend to suit him. He likes to create his own.
Yep. And look, he's going to get those highlight plays. He's going to get those. Honestly, he's going to hit 5 game winners. He's going to be unreal for that, and he's going to be good for the Knicks. He's just not going to be good for your fantasy team.
Yep, for sure.
Mate, we've chatted about New York Knicks. We think it's going to be Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, honestly, probably Josh. I think OG, Karl Anthony Towns, and Mitch Robinson, but we could see Josh Hart, OG, and Karl Anthony Towns. So draft Mitch Robinson and draft Josh Hart with some question marks. The second you see an injury, we think Gershon Yabusele will be a pick. The second that we see a hot streak from Jordan Clarkson, we think that he can be a guy that you can pick up off waivers, and he can blow your team apart. He can get some points for you in a hurry, especially in those 4 game weeks for the Knicks. And we're going to be keeping an eye on it, and we're going to give you all the updates on our socials. But you got anything left for the New York Knicks, mate?
No, I'm going to happily stay away from most of them. OG Anunoby and Miles Bridges are the only guys. Mikal Bridges. Other than that, we're good as gold, mate.
No, you've listened to an Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. Cheerio.